All right, so we are going to talk about the planet Saturn. I'm going to talk to you about something that came to me this morning, which was really helpful for me in terms of understanding not just my life, things in my life that have been very challenging, and when you go through challenging experiences, but more importantly, when you deal with challenging people. So I want you to focus. I don't know you. There's going to be, who knows how many people are going to end up watching this. But I guess I want to address the problems in your life, especially if you feel as though you have been victimized, if you've been targeted. So, I spend a lot of time really attacking the idea of being a victim. That doesn't mean that you should deny if you have feelings of being victimized. If you feel that you've been targeted by the universe, by other people, if you have spent any time thinking, why me? Why has this happened to me? Especially if you like to look into conspiracy theories, if you're into the idea that there's a Saturn moon matrix and that you're trapped in a matrix, if you feel powerless and that other entities and beings and other forces such as karma is ruling your life, if you spend time wanting to talk about why people are born with diseases or in horrible situations, and this is what I want to address. I want to address these feelings. And even though I spend a huge amount of time really attacking the idea of being a victim and trying to get people out of that, it doesn't mean that I want you to give up the feelings or pretend everything is wonderful. You may be going through some really challenging, serious things. Now, listen, I just went through one of the worst experiences of my life over the past 4 months, but especially the last 2 months. Like, as I've said before, this, in all things considered, this has been the worst holiday season of my life. I mean, I spent a big chunk of it lying on a mattress in the middle of an empty house with no furniture and no internet, and just crying because somebody had hurt me so badly, so coldly and cruelly, had been just so abusive to me. And I had all those same feelings of why me? Why has this happened to me? However, now things have shifted once again into a really wonderful period. I was able to get out of that house that I had a lease on and get out of that horrible area and get back to where I'm happy, which is about 3 hours north of where I was here in Australia. And I just went walking outside of I've got this really great house that I'm right across the street from the ocean, and I can walk out across the street into the forest and along the pathway above the cliffs. In fact, let's see if I can find a picture to show you of where I just was. I think I can. I'll give you a little film, maybe. Let me find it. Where'd it go? Give me a second. I'll try and find it. I'll try and find it at some point later today. I'll show you where it is. But I'm very happy now, and a bunch of other things which I don't want to get into have suddenly just popped up out of nowhere. And anyway, it's like that whole 3 or 4 months never happened, and I'm feeling very, very, very happy and positive. And so this morning I woke up, and as I do lots of times when I'm coming out of sleep and before I'm ready to get out of bed, I'll slip in and out of a shamanic state. So that state where you're not awake but you're not asleep, I spend a lot of time in that area before I get up. That's where I do a lot of my meditation, and I ask a lot of questions, because that gives me access to my unconscious mind and my superconscious mind. And sometimes I'll get answers directly from the powers that be, or sometimes I'll get intuitions, or sometimes I'll be able to look at myself Like I'll analyze my dreams and I'll say, who was that in the dream and what did they represent? And I get a really clear understanding of myself on um, all three of my minds. It's one of the most powerful times. And so that happened again this morning. And I started thinking about people in my life who I have experienced as who have hurt me very badly in some instances. And there's one person in particular who hurt me so badly, and it's been so confusing to me. What was going on with that person? Why are they like that? Why would they do that? How could anybody do that to another person? And I got an insight into, I wish I could get more specific, but I'm not going to. I got an insight into what that person is doing here on earth in this lifetime. And that what I perceive as somebody who is really toxic and evil and all that kind of stuff, when I look at it from, I look at it from a multiple lifetime perspective, I got a real insight into what they were trying to teach themselves in this life. And when I saw that, I went, I get it. And then all of a sudden, I didn't take it personally anymore, and I was able to let it go and say it had nothing to do with me. Because that's the thing, most of the time, when somebody does something harmful to you, it's got nothing to do with you. There's nothing that you did. There's a lesson in it for you, and this is what I want to focus on, the lesson. So before I get into that and how you can apply this to yourself, let's talk about the planet Saturn. So I think one of the reasons why this huge shift has happened to me, and again, I wish I'd get more specific. There's some other things going on in my life I'm really happy about that have just come into my life. And I've decided to take a completely different tack on this aspect of my life, and I'm looking at it and acting on it in ways I never have before. It's very freeing, very enjoyable. But what was I saying here? I think one of the things that happened is that yesterday, Saturn, the planet Saturn, moved into the sign of Capricorn out of Sagittarius. Now, Saturn has been in Sagittarius conjunct Ketu and Jupiter, and there was a huge planetary thing. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, it caused huge, major crises. Just a lot of pressure. For me, it was horrific. And I don't think I was alone. That planetary cluster has now started to break apart. And Saturn, which had a huge impact on what was going on there, especially Saturn and Ketu together. Saturn has now moved into his own sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is hard work. So one of the benefits of Saturn moving into Capricorn is that Saturn in Capricorn is hard work. And if you have worked hard for something, you're going to see the results of that hard work, the benefits. So seemingly all these great benefits are going to come from your hard work. If you haven't done a lot of hard work, if you have been avoiding your karmic issues, then it's going to have the opposite effect. Then Saturn is going to go, okay, time for you can't screw around anymore. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop trying to avoid it. You're going to have to deal with your karma now. That's it. So apparently, I've been doing a lot of hard work on myself, and now that this happened, this shift happened, and I had this awareness, and a lot of really good things are happening in my life, including all the stuff that I just mentioned. I'm in this, it just from night to day, from where I was less than a week ago to where I am now, I couldn't be happier. I've got cliffs and ocean. Again, I'm going to show it to you. Cliffs and oceans and little ocean cove beaches with, it's 83 degrees outside. The water is 79 degrees, and who needs Hawaii? Seriously. All right, so first let's talk about the planet Saturn. First, I just want to make sure that everything's working online. Everything's going good. We've got people watching. Okay, so all right, so I'll make my little speech later about this question and answer. So this is a question and answer, by the way. Okay, I don't have to worry about that yet. All right, where was I? I think I'm right here. Okay, so first let's talk about the planet Saturn. Saturn is the planet of lessons, of hard work, the planet of karma. So if you have miserable things going on in your life, and some people do, I'm not trying to minimize any of that, it is a result of what Saturn is bringing into your life based on your actions. The word karma means work. It means actions. So with that, let's take a look at one of the main deities associated with Saturn, which is the Hindu goddess Kali. All right, so I was trying to find a picture of her with blood coming out of her mouth. So a lot of people mistakenly call Kali the goddess of death. She's not the goddess of death. Well, she is, but not in the sense that people think, especially Westerners. Now you look at that and you think you're looking at some demonic, horrific being, right? Look at her skirt. She's naked except for her necklace of skulls and her skirt of severed arms. The skirt of severed arms represents karma. Karma means work, means the work of your hands. So what this means is that she cuts off, she destroys the effect of your negative karma. The skulls around her head, I'm using my cursor, you can't see my cursor. The skulls around her head represent human failings, greed, fear, lust, all of your human failings. That's what those skulls represent, meaning that she has cut off the heads of those demons. The blood coming out of her mouth. She's looking crazed and she's got her tongue out and there's blood coming out of her mouth. The blood that is coming out of her mouth is the blood of the demons that are trying to destroy you. Your own personal failings. So in the mythology, she is fighting against this army of demons. And the army of demons, that when you translate the names of the demons, it all has to do with human failings, your attachments. And there's one demon called Raktabija, which means something about drop of blood or something like that. And what happens is that she's attacking and destroying these demons. She's cutting their heads off. And then there's this one demon, you cut his head off and every drop of blood that comes out hits the ground, turns into another one of him. So if you try and kill him, if there's one of them, every drop of blood that comes out of him turns into another one of him. So you end up with, millions of these things. And so every time you try and destroy it, it gets worse. This is like if you have an addiction. Let's say you have a sexual addiction that's destroying your life. Every time that you try and suppress that desire, you try and kill it, it squirts out and becomes a bunch more. Gambling, alcoholism, greed, fear, anxiety. The more that you try and stuff those things down, those urges down, they explode and they become worse. So the blood in her mouth that's dripping out of her mouth is that she's like scooping up all of the blood, and so it's very intense. This is what Saturn wants to do for you. Saturn wants to come to you and show you how you are destroying yourself. Now, if you see Kali and she appears to you looking like this, it means that you are still attached. If you are in misery and you wake up crying and screaming, "Why me?" and you have a victim mentality, it means you are still attached to one of these personal failings. And you're either not choosing to listen to the signs, or you're in denial, or something. Again, I'm not making judgments. I just came out of a really horrible period, and apparently I passed the test. That's what my teacher said to me yesterday. He said, "You passed the test." And I still have a teacher, by the way. Listen, if you want what I have, you got to do what I do. And one of the things that I do is I work with people whom I respect. There's a person out here that I ran into who has what I want. And I came up to him, as soon as I got back into town, I thought about him, and boom, he was standing right outside the grocery store as I came into town. I ran up to him and I said, I want to spend time with you. I want your advice. I want you to mentor me. So if you are somebody that's going through life and you look at me as a teacher figure, and you don't have anybody in your life that you turn to for advice, then you are in very bad company, because you are your own worst enemy. So trying to work on things yourself, by yourself, is like going to your enemy and asking your enemy for advice. So that's what all these links are here for, by the way. Thunderwizard.com if you want to work with me. Courses.thunderwizard.com if you want to see all my books, all my services, if you want a consultation. And this new service, energyhealing.thunderwizard.com. So if you see Kali like this, it means you're attached. When she comes to you as a beautiful maiden, it means that you have released your attachment to your negative, whatever it is, and she is now, you're seeing her in her true form. If you see her this way, it means that she's coming after something within you, and she's going to consume it. She's going to chop its head off. If you're attached to it, you're going to feel as though you're being attacked. You're going to feel that she's attacking you. Now let's talk about Chronos. Chronos is another word for the god Saturn. And there's a myth of him eating his children. And I like this painting because it shows him as being very old, and he's eating an infant. And this is a really powerful image, really powerful mythological image, because this is how we feel when we're going through challenges, when we are going through misery, when life really is giving us a hard time. We feel like a helpless infant that is being devoured by the universe. I like this because they don't represent Chronos as being this big, strong, like almighty deity. He's an old man. And so it represents, old energy eating new energy. Like seeking to, like a vampire trying to eat off, feed off of its, of the youth, the innocence. But that would be our perspective if we are attached to our limitations, if we are attached to our immaturity. Because one of the things that Saturn brings is maturity. That's why we see Saturn as being old. Old age represents maturity. Old age represents experience. So, sometimes when I go paddling out and I go surfing and people see the gray hairs on my beard, some of the younger kids will kind of get out of the way and give me some space if they're, if I'm not in some bad place. But sometimes they'll do that. They'll give me respect as like the old guy that's coming out because I have experience. If I go into a store, younger people will come up and call me sir and that kind of thing. Because the gray hairs automatically make you think of experience. So Saturn brings experience, unless old age brings experience, unless you are fighting your growth. In which case, then you just get old and cranky and decrepit and you get sick. That's what happens. By the way, I mean, I'm more convinced than ever that all illness, like creaky joints, painful back, neck pain, that's not just from old age, unless you've been in some kind of an accident. It's because there are things that you haven't dealt with. You're not experiencing your maturity. You're running away from your problems. You're denying your issues. You're that person who wants to work on themselves by themselves, and you've done this for years and years and years, and you're miserable and in pain. It's a sign of immaturity. And so the universe will not tolerate immaturity in people who should have experience, who should have learned from the challenges in their life. Instead, if they continue to run away from them, they just get old and sick and cranky and miserable. There's a reason why old people, really elderly people go through dementia. I can't speak for everybody, because I haven't, talked to or investigated every single old person that has had dementia. But the people that I knew that got really old and got dementia, they were people throughout their lives who were denying things. My mother was, had dementia for the last few years of her life. And it didn't surprise me in the slightest because I can remember as a kid, we would, my brother and my sister, and we would say something to my mom. You said such and such, and she would go, "Oh, I never said that. When did that happen?" And she just would not look at herself. She would just constantly deny and pretend that she didn't know. And at some point, the universe will give you what you want. If you're running away from your issues, your problems, guess what's going to happen? When you get old, you're going to have dementia. You're not going to be able to remember anything. You're going to get exactly what you look for. Anyway, so here's what I want to look at. Here's the technique. This is what I'm getting at. So the technique to change your experience of being victimized by the universe and turn it into something of power is to ask yourself, what lesson am I trying to learn in this life? Let me explain to you again the bottom line. You take anybody. I get this question a lot, especially when I talk about karma and reincarnation. There's a lot of people who just get so infuriated over the idea that we choose our life. Now, of course, these are people who are victims, and I don't know what they've gone through. Perhaps they do have a lot of things to feel victimized by. I don't know. But when people go, why in the world would, and of course they don't talk about themselves. This is the worst part about it. They're such hypocrites. They don't talk about themselves. They'll talk about somebody else. And they'll use the most extreme example they can think of. And they'll say, why, I'm looking at this because what's coming through is so behind where I'm at. It seems like a long time ago. Anyway, they'll say, why does, if we choose our lives, why are there little babies born deformed who are sexually abused? And, they'll just find the worst possible example. And they'll say, I am sure those souls never chose to do that. And then I'll say, so is that you? Did that happen to you? Don't talk about somebody else. Talk about you. Why don't you talk about what you've gone through that you don't think you deserve? Tell me why you didn't choose what's going on in your life. So the way to do this is to do exactly that. You look at your life and you look at the challenges that you've gone through. And you ask yourself, what is the theme here? What am I trying to learn? The person that I'm not mentioning who was so cruel and abusive to me in ways, in such ingenious ways. Thinking about this person and thinking about the real serious challenges and problems that this person has faced, which are really, when I think about that, I have a lot of compassion for this person. And I ask myself, okay, knowing their condition and where they're at, what is it that they are trying to learn in this life? And the lesson that they are teaching themselves, based on what I know about them, is that they're trying to understand how important human connection is. So the only way to understand how important human connection is to put yourself in a situation where you are divorced from that, where you're incapable of real human intimacy and connection. Now, if we take the snapshot of their life, we go, how horrible. And I would say how horrible and sad that person has to live with that. But when you look at it in terms of, this is a very long process where we have multiple lifetimes, hundreds or thousands of lifetimes. And we look at it as like the soul taking a 10-minute, foray into a virtual reality. And, virtual reality is like that. If you ever had dreams where you have a dream that seems to last for hours, but it was only a few seconds. Have you ever, you watching TV and you fall asleep for a few seconds and you have this huge dream and you wake up and it's only a few seconds later? Because you're watching television. That's what becoming a human is like for the soul. While you're in it, it feels, 80, 90 years long. But for the soul, it's like that. And so you ask yourself, what is it that you came here to learn in this virtual reality we call human life? And for me, as I was sitting through this and even taking into consideration what has just happened to me and how I got out of it and how I changed it, I asked myself, what was the lesson that I've come here to learn? And looking at my entire childhood up until now, it came to me in a flash. The one thing that I've come here to learn and experience in this lifetime is freedom. And if you look at everything I teach, and look at my life, this is what I do for a living. I work a few hours a day. I'm sitting here looking out, I've got this big giant house that I'm living in. I'm looking at the ocean and the trees and all that, and I can live wherever the hell I want. I don't have any responsibilities. I can pick up, as long as they have internet there, I can work and live anywhere. So that's clearly how I'm living my life. And every time that I've gone through issues and challenges, what ends up happening is, what gets me to change that is when I start thinking about my own freedom. And then I take action to achieve my own freedom, and then life moves up another notch every time. So that's very clear. That's what I came here to learn in this lifetime, was freedom. And so I'm only as miserable, for me, since the theme for me is freedom, I'm only miserable when I give my freedom up. And that's what happened these past few months. I gave up my freedom once again for somebody else. And I ended up paying a huge price for it. So I keep giving myself these lessons so that I'll remember that freedom is the most important thing I can give to myself. For some people, it might be compassion. People who work in, let's say somebody who works in some kind of nurses, for example. Now, there are some nurses, I'm not talking about anybody listening right now, But there are some people who are nurses who are just nurses because it's a job, and they're really codependent and they don't want that job. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who that's their passion. Their passion is to go and heal and help, and they, empty bedpans and deal with stuff that the rest of us don't deal with. That's somebody who came here to learn about compassion. You know what I mean? And so you could be learning about love, learning about freedom, learning about strength, learning about compassion, learning about tolerance. There are people in this life who have experienced all kinds of issues in terms of discrimination. And you would ask, why would they choose to experience that? Well, obviously, their soul needed to be on the other side of that. There was a point where they were, in a previous life, they were discriminating against other people. This lifetime, they want to experience what that's like. This is the way to get your power. When you can figure out what the lesson is that you've chosen to learn, it's really important that you own it. You've chosen to learn, then all of a sudden it stops being a problem and it becomes a source of tremendous power and success. For me, every single time that I think about experience my own freedom and I'm willing to die, to sacrifice whatever I have to experience freedom, every time I do that, my life moves up. I get more money, I get more health, I get more strength, I get more happiness. We'll see how egotistical I am. This is me. Let me see if I can find it. This was me a couple nights ago. I wanted to, which one do I want to show you? This one. So this is me a couple nights ago, just because I had come back from the gym and I was feeling really happy, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm 56 years old. And I'm looking and feeling really good. So I snapped a selfie of myself because I was, coming out of this horrible situation, and I wanted to inspire myself. Let me see where to go. Which one do I want again? Yeah, that's the one I want. Just give me a second here. Come on, that's not going to work. All right, never mind. I'm not going to show off. I took a selfie of myself with my shirt off going, holy crap, I look really good. I've lost about 15 pounds since I got here to Australia, and still stronger than ever, and I'm really happy about that. All right, we're not going to use that one. All right, so now I'm willing to take a look at some questions. If you're new to the channel, here's how it works. I'm only interested in your questions. This is a question and answer. I am not interested in your thoughts, feelings. I'm not going to read whatever you have to say, blah, blah, blah. Please don't talk to each other. I just want to know your questions. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps, just the word question, and then you can write the rest of it in normal. And ask me your question. Make sure that you put the effort into actually writing out a full question with a subject, an object, and a proper grammar. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a hard time. Don't take it personally if I start psychoanalyzing you, because I'm going to see what the real intent of your question is. And if I think that that's more interesting to me than your actual question, I'm going to start digging into that, what it's really about. So, having said that, let's take a look and see what's going on. Yeah, Genesis Guzman, please only ask questions. Okay, so yeah, that's not a question. Alekia Will Johnson, question: can you speak more about why you shouldn't work on you by yourself? Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't work on yourself, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do self-analysis. I do self-analysis. I just talked about this whole process I have of doing self-analysis. But look, I don't care how spiritually advanced you are. You, if you're human and you still have a meat bag that you carry around with you, you still have failings and limitations, and you are not capable of working on the issues you're not fully conscious of. That's true of everybody. I say this all the time. A brain surgeon cannot do brain surgery on themselves. Can't do it. You got to find another brain surgeon to go in there and, slice your head open and look at your brain and deal with that. You are not capable of seeing yourself completely objectively. You've got to have another person, whether that be a mentor, whether that be a teacher, whether that be a psychologist, a counselor, a shaman, spiritual advisor, or a group of people. 12-step groups are like this, group therapy, just having a bunch of friends get together, like we used to have when I was a Christian, Bible study group. When you have a group of people where you have, in other words, when you have more than one person who points something out to you, that's the universe telling you that's something you need to work on. You're not going to see that on your own. So I don't know what more you want me to say about that. People who work on themselves, and again, I get this all the time. People will come on the channel, ask a question, and I'll say, you need help. You need some kind of counseling, or you need some kind of advice. And then I point to my link, thunderwizard.com. If you want to work with me, you can work with me, but I don't care. Work with somebody. And they'll write back and they'll say, oh yes, no, I've been working on myself for 20 years. But they've got all these problems. So that's just a form of denial. It's a form of fear. It's frightening to take a look at ourselves, because when we do, it's going to feel like this in the beginning. When we first take a look at ourselves, it's going to feel like this. Nobody likes to feel that way. Our problems are going to look like this when we look at them. It's frightening. So that's just the way it goes. So I don't know what else you want me to tell you other than we all need some kind of help from somebody who's unbiased. This is why it's good to get paid. Somebody that you pay. A true teacher will never, ever, ever give away something for free unless they're doing it for their own karmic work, like, going to and feeding the homeless. You don't need to get paid to go feed the homeless. That's an act of charity to work off your own karma. If a teacher decides to take on a student and doesn't want anything in return, then they're doing it for their own karmic release. A good teacher, if I were suddenly to become a billionaire, right, and I didn't need to have any of these services here in order to make a living, I would still require people to pay money, if not to me, to some charity. I would maybe have a bunch of charities lined up, and I would say, okay, you want to work with me, and then I would say, then you're going, in order to have one session with me a month, you're going to donate $108 to this charity or to that charity or something like that. Because the student has to come out of them. It has to cost them. There has to be a sacrifice. So that's why I always recommend working with somebody professionally. Here's why. I'm no different, by the way. Every single time that I have tried to have a friendship or a personal relationship with somebody who was associated with my channel, every single time that's happened, it has always been disastrous for them and for me. Because I'm human. So if you want to connect with me without money, then that means I'm going to want something from you. If you're a beautiful woman and there's attraction, I'm going to want to date you. And that's never going to work, by the way. If you want to be my friend and hang out, I'm going to, friends want something from friends. A teacher doesn't want anything from their student. That's why you pay them. You pay them money so that they don't want anything from you. When people ask me, why do you charge people for this and that? And I say, to protect them from my agendas. That way, when you don't have an agenda, then the universe can speak through you. But if you have an agenda, then you're going to start telling people what you want them to hear, or worse, you're going to tell them what they want to hear in order to get what you want. That's just the way things are. It's just the way people are. I wouldn't talk the way that I talk to you guys. I'm so direct with you guys. I wouldn't talk like that to my neighbor or my friend. You don't do that because you're trying to maintain a personal connection. So, I don't know what else I can tell you about that. Mark Jones has a funny question. Yes, the water does twirl in the I think you're trying to say in the opposite direction. Just T Baby. Okay, it's not a question. Alekia Patria, question. Do you believe in reincarnation? So, Alekia, when people ask me these kinds of questions, I've seen you on my channel. How can you ask this question? It tells me that you haven't watched my videos. If you were brand new, this was your first time onto watching my channel, and you were to ask that question, I wouldn't take it personally. But that hurts me. You haven't bothered to put any time watching my channel that you would ask that question. I mean, all you have to do, let me just, if you guys want to learn what I'm teaching here, by the way, these videos, if all you do is come and watch these question and answer videos, I want to say that you're lazy. You're only getting this much of what I teach, and you aren't understanding 80% of what I'm talking about. So if you want to learn anything about any subject that I teach, figure out how on your device you can go to the channel page for the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. Thunderwizard, DOTCOM. On the channel page, if you're on a desktop or a laptop, right next to that name, thunderwizard.com, there will be a little magnifying glass. You click on that, a search bar will come up. You can put any search term you want. If you put in reincarnation, Alekia, put some effort, what'll come up is hours and hours and hours of me talking about reincarnation. You wouldn't have to ask that question and offend me. Okay? So, and you ask, will my past life karma bother me in this life? I mean, these are such general questions. What did I just get through talking about? I just got through talking about how we choose to learn lessons in our life based on previous lives. So that is an obvious question. I'm not even going to answer that. I've obviously answered that. And then you say, then it's not fair. So, I mean, Alekia, this makes me think that you don't spend any time listening to me, that you haven't put any effort into watching my channel. I've just spent a bunch of time explaining to you how to get out of being a victim and how to turn this around. That's annoying to me. Watch more of my videos. I'll answer all those questions. You're not even really answering a question. In any case, like I said before, go onto my channel, figure out on your device how to search within the channel, and start watching the videos so that you can ask intelligent questions, and that will inspire me to answer you. Just T Baby question. Is one working with dark energy the way to go when manifesting? I don't know what that means. What do you mean by dark energy? Again, have I ever taught anything that resembles that? Maybe you're brand new to the channel, you don't know. But I don't know. Do you mean dark energy in the sense of the physics? Physics says that much of the universe works with dark energy. Do you mean dark energy in the sense of using dark energy in magic? I don't know what you mean. Just T Baby, thunderwizard.com. Go up to that link, look on the right side of the page, you will see Manifestation Mastery Course. I have hundreds of hours talking about how to manifest. If you don't want to go there and subscribe, you can go onto this channel and type in manifestation. I have hundreds of hours of videos talking about manifestation. You will find out if I even mention the term dark energy. Okay? All right. No more questions. So, when you don't ask me questions, then I sell you stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share with you the most powerful energy practice I know of, which you can use for manifestation. You can use to, well, I'll explain it on here, but Um, this has been the most popular service that I have offered, and it's been going on for over 10 years on this channel. So be back in a couple of minutes. Hi, I'm Michael Denny of SpiritTao.com, and this is Celestial Negung Part 1. Celestial Negung means that this is power that is descending from heaven. And the idea is that we are all microcosms of the entire universe. You are the entire universe, and everything around you is simply the projection. You are looking within yourself. So when you look up into the stars at night, you're actually looking deep within your own body. When you look at the sun, the moon, the trees, the flowers, you're looking within yourself. This is Negung. And so what we're doing is we're simply releasing that infinity from within us. You are tapping into and releasing the power that is within our own body, our own cells, our own organs. So one of the reasons that I'm making this DVD is in the hope that the essence and the spirit of the teaching of the Shang Qing arts can be taught to the world at large, and it is my hope that the core essence of what the Shang Qing tradition is will continue to live and grow and evolve. As we move on into the Aquarian age, everything is changing. I don't need to tell you that. The entire world is changing, and what we are seeing now is that if people hold on to external things, they are very challenged in life. And those who are making the transition into the next phase that we are moving into in the world as we approach 2012, those who look within and find their source of strength from within, those are the people who are getting the most out of life and will make the transition into the next phase of evolution most comfortably. It is my belief that the Shang Qing tradition is one method whereby human beings can evolve into the next level of being in the most comfortable fashion and be able to take advantage of the rapid, energetic, mental, and spiritual changes that are going on in the world today. Coming 2009, so get ready. All right, let's see here. Where's my links latest? Okay. All right, looks like we have a question here. Mystic Musings question. If Saturn has a heavy influence in the chart/life, and I start mastering the karmic challenges, can Saturn's influence be reversed to start rewarding me in this life? I mean, the obvious answer to that question is yes. I'm wincing at it because I don't like the assumption of it. The assumption is that Saturn is the one causing the problems. Saturn doesn't cause any problems. Saturn is just Saturn. You're the one that causes the problems. Saturn only responds to your actions. Karma means action. There's no such thing as good or bad karma. There's only experiences that you have. Truth of the matter is that there's far more good karma coming your way than negative karma all the time. Is your heart beating and sending blood through your body? Are your lungs working and sending oxygen to all of your cells? Do you have a place to live? Do you have a car to drive? Do you have food to eat? Do you have a bed to sleep in? If you can answer yes to those questions, then there is nothing but good karma coming your way. That doesn't mean that you don't have challenges and difficulties. I know because I've been going through it myself. But every difficulty that I experienced was 100% my responsibility. I created it. I created the trap, and then I stepped in it. Over these past 4 months that I went through. And I went through some really awful stuff, but I did it. I did it to myself. You have to see that way. So the obvious answer to the question is yes. The way to master the challenges is to do what I just did. How did I do this to myself? How did I create this? You step back even further and you go, okay, so this is a theme in my life. I keep running into these issues. What is it that I want to learn and master? For me, it's freedom. If I don't operate with freedom and I don't take action towards my freedom, then I end up miserable every time. If I give my freedom up to somebody else, I become miserable. If I give up my freedom in order to stay safe, like, I'll give you a story of a friend of mine. This was a guy 5 years ago, after my divorce, and I moved back to Southern California with no money. I had no money. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I didn't want to work a job, and I moved back to Southern California. And I was putting this channel together, and I was writing books, and I was, starting to get, putting the effort in to get this thing up and running. And I had a friend of mine who I had just reconnected with during my college years, and he had this really good job. He was making 6 figures. He had a big house in the mountains, and all this stuff. And he said to me, God, I wish I had your life. And I said, what are you talking about? And I'm broke. I'm going through bankruptcy. I don't have anything. I'm living in a studio apartment. What are you talking about? And he says, you have so much freedom. And he says, you're doing what you want. He says, you spend all your spare time surfing, right? And I said, yeah. And he says, I don't have any spare time. And he says, but I'm addicted to the money. I'm just, I'm addicted to that paycheck. And he wanted to become a musician again. He was a musician when I met him. He said, I want to go and make music. And I said, well, the answer is real simple. Quit your job, sell your house, take the money, move back to LA, and start writing music and recording music. Yeah, but whatever. And I said, who cares about that? Just do, I was telling him what I would do if I was in his position, because my thing is freedom. So freedom means you jump off the cliff. You don't have anything? Well, you're going after what you want. Better to be free than anything else, right? So he never ended up doing that. And he kept on complaining about the money, and he kept on complaining about this woman he was dating, and how she was giving him a hard time. And then within a couple of months, he gave himself a brain aneurysm and he had a stroke. And then guess what happened? He had to leave his job. And lucky for him, they put him on a pension. He had to marry this woman that was controlling him because he had no place else to go. And he was worse off than ever. He ended up getting, what he wanted was to get out of that job. But, then he was basically an invalid for a while. I think he's doing a lot better now. But that's what happens when you don't take action on what you want in life. That's the kind of thing, it builds up. So, of course, if you master the challenges in your life, of course, things are going to turn around for you. All right, what else? Will Johnson question, how do you personally use the D9 Navamsha chart? So do you really think that I'm going to be able to answer that question in just a couple of minutes? In case you don't know, Will Johnson is talking about Vedic astrology. To get a reading from me, you can go to courses.thunderwizard.com and click on the astrology links. But the D9 chart, in Vedic astrology, the chart is split up, and there's a bunch of different charts. The D9 is the most important, what they call divisional chart. So how I personally use it is, there's just a bunch of ways. You find out which 3 planets want to help you. You find out Well, you find out a bunch of stuff. But one of the things that you can do with the D9 chart is you can see how strong your birth chart is. Because, in other words, if your planet is strong in your birth chart but it's weak in your D9 chart, then it means that whatever that planet, let's say it's Venus, right, and it's associated with money, then what it'll look like is that you have money, but if Venus is weak in the D9, you might not be able to hold on to it. Whereas if it's the other way around, Venus is strong in your D9 but weak in your birth chart, then you may have challenges getting money, but you'll be able to save it. You'll be able to save the money that you keep. It shows the, the foundation for the birth chart. It also represents your spouse. It represents where your planets want to go. Represents where you want to go your next life. Those are some of the things. But, it's a huge, huge, huge subject. Alekia Patria question. I'm exactly like you. You mean you're a 56-year-old Caucasian male with a bald head and goatee? Wow, that's amazing. For years, I only have one thing in mind, freedom. So every time I feel trapped, okay, so that's not a question. Should I take radical action? Or sometimes should I try to adjust? So I've got a book that if you can master what's in this book, everybody, if you can master what's in this book, you can have pretty much everything you want in life. It is the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Go up to courses.thunderwizard.com, click on books, get that book. It's only a few bucks. It's real cheap. And it's a short read. But if you can master what's in that book, that will answer your question. Of course, you should take radical action. Watch my videos. Again, it makes me say, watch my videos. I talk about this all the time. Dying in battle. My ancestors, my pre-Christian ancestors believed that those who die in battle go to Valhalla, which is heaven. Enlightenment. If you want enlightenment, die in battle. What does die in battle mean? It doesn't mean, get a sword through your heart. That's not what it means. It means that you're willing to die for those things that give you joy, happiness, and inspiration. And every time I've done that, it has paid off. Every time. I could go in all the different ways where I've had nothing. I've jumped off the cliff, and I always end up much better off than I was before. If I hold back, things start to get stale and putrefy and get worse. So of course you should take radical actions. I don't know, should you adjust? I'd have to know the specifics. D's Enlightened Edits. Question, any advice for getting in that positive Saturn flow when you have a lot of Capricorn in your chart? Rising, so you have Capricorn rising, you have Moon in Capricorn. Again, I don't know if you're talking about Vedic or Western. If you're talking about Western, you might be 100% wrong. Western astrological charts are off by 24 degrees. Western astrology uses the tropical zodiac, which is when you're looking out into the sky, it's looking out at the wrong angle. So you're not looking at actually the stars that are hitting you when you were born. And it's continuing to go off by a degree every 72 years. So I don't know if you're talking about your Western or your Vedic. If you're talking about your Vedic, then Capricorn is your rising sign, your moon sign, and more. I don't know what that means. You say you love mantras and have been working with a Hanuman mantra about Shani. Well, Hanuman is Mars. So again, here's where people have to understand what mantras are about. I know it's very common. You go and how do I deal with Saturn? And you'll go online and they'll tell you to worship Hanuman. Well, that's only if, well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, Hanuman will always benefit you. But Hanuman will really benefit you if Mars in your chart is trying to keep Saturn in its place. And I don't know that Saturn is what's causing you the problems in your life. I don't know that. It could be Jupiter. Again, it all depends on the chart. If Saturn is your rising chart and your moon is in Capricorn, that doesn't tell me that Saturn is giving you problems. It might, but that, you know, that means that Saturn is one of your power planets. So this is why it's good to get an astrological reading from somebody who knows what they're talking about. If you're doing a Hanuman mantra, again, a Hanuman mantra about Shani, you mean about Saturn, it tells me you don't understand Hanuman or Saturn. Hanuman is Mars. Just so happens in my chart that Mars is staring at Saturn. So if I chant to Hanuman, it'll put Hanuman's face against Saturn and put Saturn in his place. So if you're getting benefit from Hanuman, it means that you're empowering your Mars, not your Saturn. Okay? So this is why it's good to know what you're talking about. Yeah, so Western. So you don't know anything. You don't know that your Saturn is your rising or that your moon is in Capricorn. You don't know that because everything in your chart is off by 24 degrees. I would highly recommend getting a Vedic chart. Go on and watch my videos about Vedic versus Western. It really annoys me. It annoys the crap out of me. Listen, if somebody believes in Western, that's one thing. And they say, I believe in Western astrology, I'm not going to challenge them on it. If that's what they believe and it works for them, you go ahead. But one of the things that annoys the crap out of me is when people say, well, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and it's okay. And no, that tells me that you don't want to cause problems. Look, astrology is a science. You're taking calculations of the planets in the sky and how they are looking at you when you're born. There is an actual scientific mathematical calculation that it's not up for grabs. If it's up for grabs, then who gives a crap? So I would throw all that away and I would take a look at Vedic. If you want my help, get Vedic so that you get a Vedic chart so you know what you're talking about. And here you are, you're doing Western astrology and you're looking at your Western astrological chart, making assumptions about Saturn, and then you're getting a mantra, which is a Vedic thing, and you think it's about Saturn when Hanuman is actually Mars. See what I mean? This is why people ask, why should we not do things alone? This is why. Because you obviously don't know what you're talking about. Two things, the two most important things in life, if you want to talk about Saturn, this is Saturn talking right now. The two most important things in life are, one, paying attention, and two, putting effort. Those two things are the most important things in life. If you do them, you will be successful. If you don't, I will tear you a new one. Because it annoys me. It's like when I go to park my car and some guy's halfway in one parking space and halfway in another. And I'm just like, how hard would it have been for you to actually pay attention and put some effort into parking your car into one spot? How challenging is that for you? All right. Horus Lovechild 2. Question. I've been locked in deep fear for many years about going to be tortured in hell forever when I physically die. Have you any advice for me? Yeah, watch my channel. Go up here and click on all those links and take advantage of any and every thing that will be helpful for you. You need help. You need a mentor. You need a counselor. You know, to have that intensive a fear about something that general, like you're not saying I have a fear of spiders. You're saying that you have a fear about being tortured in hell forever when you die. That's huge. What that means is that there's huge unresolved emotional, psychological conflicts in your unconscious mind that you need to unpack and take a look at. You can't do that alone. So my first advice to you is to get a mentor, get a teacher, get a counselor. Otherwise, you won't be able to just figure it out. You're not going to be able to do that because we have three minds. We have our conscious mind, which is what's listening to me now. You have your subconscious mind. Most people, when they use the word subconscious, they mean unconscious, because they don't know that there are three minds, and most people haven't put the time and effort into learning about the minds. The subconscious is the part of your mind that remembers your birthday, your mom's birthday. You're not thinking about it, but if somebody asks you when's your birthday, you have the answer. You dip into your subconscious. It's right in between the conscious and the unconscious. It's the part of your mind that you intend your reality with. Then there's the unconscious mind, the part of your mind that you are unaware of. Meadow Bell, do me a favor, please, unless you got a question, please don't fill up that with just random things. I really only want to see questions in there, okay? So if you're new to the channel, you don't know any better. All right, so I got distracted. So having said that, Horace Lovechild, you need some kind of help. You need somebody that's going to be helpful to you. You know, if you work with me, then I can ask you a bunch of questions and I can find out exactly where this is coming from in your unconscious mind, maybe. And then we can find ways to remedy that. But it's going to take time and effort and work. Second thing I want to tell you is that the underworld is not hell. I mean, the actual name hell that Christians use came from pre-Christian European polytheism. So the word hell is the place, and the goddess is Hela. She actually is the place as well. And she is not a place of torture. She is a place of regeneration and healing. Now, it is possible if somebody, like let's say Hitler, when Hitler died, there's no doubt in my mind that he went to a place of torture. But not because he was being punished for anything. Because it's impossible to do the things that he did and not when you, because what's going to happen when you die is you're going to go straight into your unconscious. You're going to be conscious of all of the stuff you weren't aware of. So he's going to become, he would have become completely aware of all of his mommy issues and all of his issues that caused him to do all the crazy, stupid stuff he did. And he would feel all the guilt and the remorse for all of the, you know, millions of people that he's responsible for their death and their torture. And he would probably create a personal hell that he would have to live through. So it is possible if you go to the underworld that you can create a torture chamber for yourself, but it's only your projection of yourself. So if you want to avoid that, then start doing work to look at your unconscious issues. Start to get honest with yourself why you do the things that you do. If you have this kind of conscious fear, it's coming from something else. It's not because you did anything wrong. It's coming from your own fear. There's no doubt in my mind major childhood issues, right? I don't even know you, and I already know you had a dysfunctional childhood, right? Because people who with that kind of crippling fear about being punished in the afterlife don't have that if they had a healthy childhood. So get some help. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to, I already said that. So D's enlightened edits. Another thing that bothers me is when people double down on their mistakes. You just did that. I'm a shark. If somebody's in denial, I'm going to go after it, especially if they want to defend themselves. That's why I say don't write anything on here if it's a question. Because if you write a question and I'm going to look at that and I'm going to pry it open, your ego is, your defense mechanism is you're going to want to kick in and defend yourself, and you're only giving me more fodder to become Saturn. I'm going to want to do this. I'm just going to want to eat you alive. So you know he's not Saturn, but there's a specific mantra that's helpful to overcome Saturn effects. I already told you, if you were listening to me, I already told you that if you go online and type in Saturn effects, how to mantra for Saturn, a Hanuman mantra will come up. I already told you that. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to help you. because you don't know what your Saturn issues are. You think Saturn is your rising sign and your moon sign. Capricorn, which would mean Saturn is your friend, not your enemy. So you already don't understand how Saturn is working in your life. I've already told you, Western is off. And you're telling me stuff about your charts and this. You know, if you had gone away for a week, got a Vedic chart and started looking at it and then came back with a question, I'd have respect. But when you double down on your mistakes and you want to defend yourself, you're just telling me that you're not listening to what I'm saying and you're not applying it to yourself. And that offends me. It's a waste of my time. You say you have a lot of Mars and Aries in chart. How do you know that? I just got through telling you that your Western chart is off by 24 degrees. You don't know that. Pay attention. Put effort. Zero sum. Question. Saturn entering my third house soon. Any advice? I can't give you advice without looking at your whole chart. And is that Western or Vedic? If you want to get a reading from me, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. I'll be happy to take a look at your chart and give you tons of advice on how to deal with that. All right, I don't see anything else here. See if I have any last minute thoughts or questions. I'm getting a little annoyed with myself that I'm getting so annoyed with people. The people who have been on my channel for a long time are smart. You know, if I know when I have just a bunch of people who've been on my channel for a while because they don't say anything, they don't ask any questions, because they know I'm going to tear them apart or get upset if they just start saying random things on there. So, all right, I can't think of anything off the top except for this. All right, so thunderwizard.com. If you want to learn shamanism mastery courses from A to Z, hundreds of hours, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at the lowest level. That will give you access to the shamanism course. The next level up from that is the manifestation mastery course, which includes all of the shamanism videos and courses that are on that channel, the stuff that I don't teach on this channel. And right now we've got 100 videos, 51 videos twice, so 102 videos on how to master manifestation, how to turn the universe into a virtual reality machine that you can command. That's what that one does. Courses.thunderwizard.com. All of my books, all of my DVDs, all of my CDs, all of my certification courses, if you want to get certified in Vedic astrology, in rune readings, all of my video teachings, everything that I offer. And then we've got this new service, energyhealing.thunderwizard.com, which I've been getting some good feedback on from people. Now, you know, I don't expect everybody to have an experience from it, but this is a distance energy empowerment, and a lot of people have gotten back to me who have said they've had some really good experiences from doing that. So I recommend that. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell button. All right, if there's any more questions, I'll answer them. If not, we'll call it a day. Nope, no more questions. So that's it for me, guys. To everybody in Australia, happy Australia Day. I believe today is the day. All right, my battery's going to run out on my laptop, so I guess I got to go. All right, guys, thanks. I'll see you very soon.